Hello and welcome. It's a wet, rainy Saturday afternoon. May as well do a beer video. Drink a beer. Cheers. You can probably hear the rain on the roof. Sorry for that. And you can probably hear the glycol chiller kicking off. Fucking boiling in here. Because at the minute we're trying to get the latest brew down to. I was trying to get it down to 4 degrees, but the chiller's just. You can't do it. It's getting it down to 6, but it's pumping out so much heat into here, this my small space, and it's just the more it tries to chill that, the more it warms the room up, the more that warms. It's a never-ending fight at the moment with that. So I've let it go at 6 degrees, but it's still trying to fight to get to 6 degrees. Right, what shall we talk about today? Well, I want to talk about mistakes and errors and getting things wrong. So this is supposed to be a Citra Pilsner using Nova Lager yeast. Now this is an experiment. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's quite tasty. But this has been a long time in the making, and I'll explain. So I went to make a general sort of Pilsner, add a bit of Citra at the end to try and get a little bit of a very similar to having a Corona with a bit of lime in. Probably easy, just put a bit of lime in. So that was the plan. But there was an experiment built into that as well, in that I had some Nova Lager yeast in, I'm doing that, in a Kilner jar, about that much. One of these small ones, two about there. And as I was pouring the water into the fermenter, I rinsed that yeast out of the Kilner jar with it into the fermenter. Left it for 2 days, absolutely nothing, it did nothing. Opened the fermenter, nothing. Now normally the Nova Lager yeast is very fast. I have it kicking off usually. I'll brew the morning, finish about lunchtime, and by the next day it's raring away. The balloon that you see behind me, that's usually starting to fill up really big with CO2, so I expected the same, nothing. But I'd also dried some of the Nova Lager yeast using my usual method that I use for Clyke yeast. Just spreading it on a piece of baking paper, another piece of baking paper pressed on top, flatten it all out so it's already thin, leave it somewhere warm. As it was, I think it was out in the sun for a bit. So anyway, it dried nicely, and then I left it in here, which is quite warm because of glycol chiller does keep the place warm when I'm trying to chill. So yeah, it dried out, and that kicked off. Now I thought it was done in my usual time because I don't put a tilt in, because the tilt I have, I'm not convinced by it. I don't really like it. I don't really like tilt. In this shed, nothing seems to. Wi-Fi is so poor to get into this shed. Whether that's because everything's lined with the silver-backed reflective bubble wrap stuff. You know, the type of insulation it's like heavy-duty bubble wrap, lined in silvery backed aluminium foil kind of thing. So whether that blocks the signal, I'm not sure, but I struggle with things in here. I could leave an old phone in, but I don't have an old phone to leave in that has a long enough charge for it to be worthwhile me doing it. I can't leave them on charge because all my old phones don't work with the charger. It's basically it's a no-no. And I don't want to pull a drawer any off, because I don't use the bottom drawer at all. That just fills up with whatever yeast and that, because I draw up from the top to transfer, do the cake transfer, pressure transfer, and I don't want to open it either. So I am relying on basically the yeast doing what I think it's going to do, and my ability to get it to do that, and it didn't. So when I went to transfer, it was quite frothy. I thought, it's a bit frothy, a lot of CO2 still in there, there's a problem. Got it into the keg anyway, tried to draw some off, it was pure foam nearly, got it settled, took a reading and it was 1.021 when it should have been obviously down to 1.008 or 1.010, somewhere around that region. So I had to then carry on fermenting it in the keg under pressure. Keep releasing as much pressure as I could, but anyway, so that is this. Now, it's a lot of effort and a lot of faff, and I was supposed to be sending some of this with some more beer to someone. I'm holding the other beers back. New Pilsner on. Hopefully I can get that up and running and ready, because I don't really want to send that out as a Pilsner. It's never going to clear, I don't think. It's drinkable, it's nice, but I think there's a touch too much yeast in that keg still, and I think you can kind of tell. So it's not good enough to sell. So that's one thing I want to talk about. That's a fuck up, and that's me experimenting. I don't mind that kind of fuck up, because that's just me experimenting and trying something new, seeing if it works. So I now know Nova Lager yeast kept at 4 degrees in the fridge for about a month, I think it was, is probably a no-no for me. I won't do that again. However, the drying it immediately and storing it dried in the freezer works. It's quite good, so I'll do that. But I need more of it. I'll need quite a bit to get the fermentation as vigorous, and to get down to the final gravity as quick as it normally does. I'll need more of it. So that's what I've learned there. Now the second experiment, let me get a glass. Well, no, this one wasn't an experiment. This was kind of just let me explain, because these are all ways of finding out things, aren't they? I mean, experimentation, trial and error, and you learn things, and this is something else I learned. And this is Sanders APA. I use the Sanders yeast. It's supposed to just be a pale ale. I can't remember what it is now. It was a use up one. There's bits and pieces I want to get rid of and use up now. Aroma wise, it's still fucking lovely. I mean, it's probably been in the keg now a month and a half, nearly 2 months, but still got a nice aroma. It's almost like tangerine now. Tangerines, orangey, almost marmalade-y, which brings me on to, with the marmalade, brings me on to what I don't like about it, what I feel is wrong with it. It's over bitter. Now, like I say, with the marmalade, it works. It is a Westie, but it's a hazy Westie, if you know what I mean. So a New England West Coast kind of thing. It's good, it's interesting, but it's not what I wanted. And how did that come about, I feel? Well, the IBUs for it were meant to be much lower. Well, they're not meant to be much lower. Especially reasonably balanced. This is a 4.5%. Finished, I think, at 1.011, and the IBUs for it, I think, is 30. So it should be reasonably balanced. But what I did that I don't normally do is I put the dry hop in whilst the yeast was really active. I mean, it'd only been right at high Krausen, literally at high Krausen. Normally I don't bother to hear that. We've got thunderstorms coming. Don't you know that? It's been like that all day, to be honest, though. The sound of the thunder, just constant rain and thunder. Anyway, back to this. So it's probably maybe even just before high Krausen, but enough for it to have an effect. The biotransformation effects of what it did with the Sanders yeast, it has made it quite bitter. I mean, it's that bitterness that you get. So initial taste, oh, sweet, nice, and then back end, it dries your mouth out, and then you feel the bitterness, and it just stays and stays. It's that just constant bitterness. It doesn't build anymore. Christ, we were drinking 100 IBUs at one point. Do you remember that? Do you remember when everyone was like, oh, how many IBUs can you get in? Well, we've got 100 IBUs. Well, I'm doing 200. Well, I've got 300. What the fuck? Make them drinkable. So yeah, this, to me, is a failure. Because it's not what I wanted. It wasn't what I tried. But it's come out. I think someone like, say, Matt Calaby, who I know likes a Westie and likes his beers to be a bit more bitter. Have a higher bitterness. That's probably a better phrase. He likes them to have a higher bitterness than I do. I prefer a sweeter beer. He'd probably like this, so I may actually bottle one and send one to him, see what he thinks. But for me, once again, that it didn't work. But then now I know. Now I know that putting a dry hop in that early, and I wanted to do it that early because I know people are like, well, we'll do this. Yes, but what I wanted to do, why I did it that early, is the one thing I was trying to avoid was the risk of oxygenating the beer, getting oxygen in there. And what I did to avoid that was, whilst it was just starting to build up CO2, was chuck it in then. I maybe could have been a little less lazy and waited, flushed through with CO2 from the bottom upwards, and whilst it was flushing CO2 through, added the dry hop then. Another option is for me to add to here the possibility of something to add dry hops in. I know there's the ones for Kegland via AliExpress that you can get that should fit. It's just getting around to sorting out the whys and wherefores and hows and measurements and fitments and everything of that before I do. Because I would like to do that. I would like to be able to add dry hops as and when I fancy. As it is, I'm constraining myself with the brews I do because of the equipment I have, whilst trying to avoid as much contact with oxygen as I can. If that makes sense to you. So that's why. So there we go. Anyway, that's that experiment. I mean, it's still a really bright orange. It hasn't got much darker, or like, I mean, it's quite orange on it. Actually, do you know, it looks quite about the same colour compared to the Pilsner, which I know is I would say they're the two. If you can see that, yeah, one lighter, one quite darker. This, yeah, I've learned something new. Be more patient as well. But let's say that normally I get it spot on. I have it and it works. Usually, I had done previously. I hadn't taken into account the change of the yeast and that, and then I pushed it because of that. I'm impatient, that kind of impatient kind of guy. However, the difference is I could still quite enjoy drinking that. Whereas this, I have maybe one of these, and I'm like, right, yeah, that's enough. It's too bitter for me. I still can't understand how we used to drink that kind of beer. The likes of that still love it, I know. Right, so that was pretty much all of what I wanted to discuss about mistakes and failures, because I don't really do that. It's quite often I say, yeah, there's a beer, it's great, look at it, this is what I've made, it's brilliant, I love it, it's tasty, what do you think? I did this, this and this, and it tastes, and everything's magical and amazing in unicorn land, but it's not. I mean, I do try and say it's not great or it's not brilliant, but this is specifically about making mistakes that are they mistakes or fuck ups? Experimentation, I suppose. Trying different things to find out how to get the beer I want, using methods I can do that A, may save me some money with the yeast, so to speak. Since it's like minuscule, I know it's $4.50, I can get 3 brews out of it, and I try to extend it to. I know, and I maybe shouldn't do that, but I did, just to see. And then there's the trying to avoid ruining your beer with oxygen and ruining it anyway. There you go. Oh, yeah. What can I say? The more you learn, the more you realise you haven't got a fucking clue what you're doing, and you just got to keep trying and get lucky. Seems to be the way. So moving on to from that idea that get lucky, trying and such. I think Dickie posted on the Facebook page that this was available on Amazon at a cheaper price. It was about $4.99 reduced. Now I went to get it and it was $4.99, but then you had like £3 odd postage to add. I guess if you have Prime itself, it doesn't matter, but I don't have Prime, so it was adding an extra. So it was nearly the same price again to get this, but delivered. However, knowing Amazon as I do, working with Amazon, and I know that was just the buy box. If you can look at other sellers, that thud down will have been a seagull that's seen that there's cat food out there that the cats can't be asked to eat because it's too damp for them, even though they mourn for the cat food. Step away from that. Back to, so I know the Amazon sellers thing, that you have the buy box, and to get the buy box is based on algorithm thing, but there are other sellers that sell the same product, maybe in a different manner, at a different price, etc. So I clicked on that and found a second-hand copy for $4.55 delivered. Now this is pretty much brand new. I can't see how that is not a brand new book. If I bought that in the shop, I would not know that this is supposedly second-hand. So I was quite impressed. However, the book itself, I've had a skim through and I'm not impressed with some of the recipes look good, but they're very American based. Also, it's quite limiting in certain ways. Before you go out and buy it, I mean, if you want to understand modern techniques and things, which are also quite often quite old techniques, things like double decoction, triple decoction, lautering, methods, and then there's things like doing, let me quickly scan through what's there, where it gives me the list. So you do malt extract brewing. It starts with malt extract, which is good if you're new and you want to start brewing. So you do malt extract, then you can do different types of mashes, partial mash, two-step method, large partial mash, no boil method. Then you can do a mix of all grain and malt extract. Then you do all grain. Then it goes into different types of mashing, decoction mash, cereal mash, recirculated mash, reiterated mashes. It really does go into detail about how to do different types of brewing, lottery, etc. Yeah. However, I was really looking forward to the recipes. Now, there are quite a lot of recipes. However, a lot of the recipes are based on what it's talking about in that chapter. So, reiterated mashing. There will be maybe a recipe that's based on using reiterated mash. There's recipes that are a mixture of all grain and malt extract. There's triple decoction recipes. There's lautering recipes. So if you're not doing those techniques, it is limiting the number of recipes that you're going to be able to do. However, for $4.55, I ain't going to fucking complain. I'm going to sit and read it, really enjoy it, because it's cool. It's even got one of our guys, one of Facebook, YouTube members' comments from Denny Con himself. Methods of Modern Homebrewing may be the most interesting homebrewing book not written by Drew Beacom and me. Or Beecham, even. There you go. That's what Denny Con had to say. John Palmer. Methods of Modern Homebrewing. Each method is explored with interesting recipes that are sure to whet your appetite for more brewing knowledge. Chris Colby's experience as a veteran brewing writer and editor are clearly evident in this insightful book. There you go. And David Heath had to say, no, he didn't. No, because no fucker asks him what he wants. He has to say. Seriously, do you think you would have said something? Right. So that's all I have to say, really. Little news bite at the end. You may not have noticed. You may have. Mr. Rusty Homebrew is coming back. He's starting again, and he's got a new format. He's going to do this kind of style. Just turn the camera on, blather, like I do, similar I guess, but probably more interesting, for 10 minutes, and cut off. And he's got some already done, and then we're just waiting on him. I've been sat there, just refreshing YouTube, waiting for him, I'll be honest. I'm going to have to give him a kick up the ass, I think, because they're not there yet. Anyway, so yeah, little bit of news bite there for you. I might add that in, a little news bite at the end, if I can think of things. So anyway, that's pretty much all I've got. I've done 20 minutes. A bit more, twice the length of a rusty one, but not as long as some of the shite I've spouted over the years. So, if you got this far, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Cheers. Take care.